With our Troy City Schools Board of Education board meeting tonight, and we'll get started with a moment of silence. All right, thank you. First item on the agenda, we have a very full agenda, but first item on the agenda for tonight is to approve the agenda. Do I hear a motion to approve tonight's agenda? So.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, the agenda is approved. Next item on the agenda is to approve the minutes from our June 24th meeting and then our subsequent meeting on July 23rd, 2019. Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes from these two meetings?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor of approving the minutes for those two meetings, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. The minutes are approved. Next item on the agenda is to approve our financial statements and approve payments of bills, payroll, and accounts, and reconciliation of monthly bank statements. And for that item, I will turn that over to Dr. Peters.
Board members, you have before you the bills and accounts, financial statements, and bank account reconciliation for the month of June of 2019. Highlighting for this period, utilities for the period of May 8th through June 7th were $31,931.86, which was a 18.6% decrease over the same period last year. Sales tax for the month of June were $351,053.94, which was a 19.7% increase compared to the same period 1 year ago. Board members, if there are no questions, I recommend that I submit the monthly financial reports for June 2019 and recommend them for approval.
Dr. Hicks has brought forward a recommendation to approve our financial statements. Do I hear a motion to approve those items? So moved. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving these financial statements, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is our personnel. We'll turn that over to Dr. Hicks for his recommendations.
Okay, board members, you have before you personal action for July 30th of 2019. If there are no questions, I recommend personal action be approved by the board.
Board members, you hear a recommendation from Dr. Hicks for these personnel actions. Do I hear a motion to approve these recommendations?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion?
Under the support, the records clerk, is that a 9-month position, or is
I
that?
think it was at the elementary, I think it was actually 10. 10.
Coming from 12.
So it's coming, so we are coming down to 12 to 10. And under the hire for in-school suspension in Troy Elementary, who was doing that position?
That was Orlando Buck, and he left him and Ms. Buck both, I think they moved to North
Okay,
Carolina.
so that position was vacant.
Yes.
Okay, and then under the high school, who was doing career prep?
That was actually the young lady that is now going to do agriculture. And then we verified just a few minutes ago, everything that we've got is going to be foundation and federal title.
Any other questions or comments by board members?
Now, on I know we probably ask this every time we do a hire, Dr. Nix, I do apologize, but whenever we have someone go into a position such as the math teacher, what criteria do they have to meet to be able to teach math?
Well, again, we used to have to do it with, we look for the credentialing of having it be math certified. But now with the teacher shortages we have, we look at people that have the ability to teach it, but since it is only teaching algebra, the the basics of algebra. Then, you know, we look at who has the strength and who feels comfortable to teaching and are willing to go back and get it. Some are willing to do it, but in some way it is in English or any other shortage in science, whatever the case may be. But they are required to have to take the practice. They're required to have to go through the process all the way across the board to become certified. And they have that certain amount of time required by law, you know, to get it, or they have to be replaced.
And I know that, I believe, under the last legislative session, they've increased that time that they have.
They've increased it now. You have up to 2 years, but I think up to 4 if you're in your track of moving towards it. But used to you had 1 and that was it in your lifetime. Now you can have up to 4, or 2, and then it can be up to 4 if you're on that track.
Now, I noticed that this is a transfer, and this person was an instructional aide.
We're not filling that spot. That we absorbed that spot, so we've saved money there as well.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments by board members?
How many other positions do we have?
Well, you know, again, it changes, as just a few minutes ago. We could very well have maybe 1, maybe 2 more that open up and would need to be filled. We still have to fill right now possibly a elementary position. We have to look at filling possibly another high school position that could be opening here soon. And we also have a bookkeeping at the Career Tech Center that we're having to re-advertise for. And so it could be anywhere from 3. But right now, as we speak, I look at possible 3. 2 for sure, 1 is a possibility. So it's a possibility 3, but right now 2 definitely. And that we'll probably have to do that in a special call meeting once we go through those time frames. But the elementary, we're looking at several options right now that we can do. Possibly working with the university, but a lot of people have already been hired up, and so out of respect, you know, they don't want to leave their systems. They want to be here, but they don't want to leave their systems high and dry, and we respect that.
I know this is kind of different, but does it have total students per class, or is that all? How many can be there?
But they have guidance, and again, you know, there's a student-teacher ratio that they have listed for each grade, and a lot of times it's guidance, but as a hardcore law, not necessarily, but there is guidance, and we stay below that in pretty much all our classes, and that's why we use those title funds to eliminate some of the higher teacher-student ratio in some of our core classes and so on and so forth.
Other questions or comments? Based off of the personnel recommendations that Dr. Hicks has brought to us, do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. And motion passes. Okay, next item on the agenda is to approve our 2018 audit report. And I'm going to turn that over to Dr. Hicks, who can introduce our guest.
Okay. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to our CFO, Mr. Daughtry, since he's the gentleman that will get to, they got to work hand in hand with our auditors.
Yes.
So again, I'll just turn it over to Mr. Daughtry.
Board members, we underwent this past spring or December our annual audit as required by state law and by our policies here. That audit was performed by Carl Riggs and Ingram as it has for the last 3 years. They make a good team to work with. They provide us with qualified auditors to perform the functions, and they got the results to submit to you tonight. I will introduce you to Tyler Dunaway. Is the auditor in charge during the time, and I'll allow him to introduce his supervisor.
Rodney Thornton's also with me. He's the partner on the job. He was in Atlanta, but he actually came through at the exact time before he was going on.
Yeah, they let us off at 2:30. Yeah, I was not expecting that.
I think you guys have gotten an electronic copy. You all need a hard copy in front of you. I'll be referencing page numbers, so it might be helpful. right, so if you will open up to page 2, I'll start there. Again, I am Tyler Dunaway. I was the manager on the job. This year, this is the second year I've gotten to work with you guys. And overall, I've been very impressed with your staff, all the way from Dr. Higgs to Mickey, his staff at the schools that we work with. We go out to each of the local schools and do some testing out there as well. We found that all of your staff are very knowledgeable, very competent, but also they really care about the school system. So we definitely think you guys are in good hands from what we have found. There are many audit reports that I work on where I don't get to say that. So I'm thankful to hear you guys do have a good staff in place and good processes. So I'm glad to state that. All right, so on page 2, this is the opinion that we provide. The financial statements are yours. They're your responsibility. The opinion is the only thing in this entire document that we control. And so I do want to point this out. The opinion at the top of page 2 is what we call an unqualified opinion. That is the highest possible opinion that we can give. It states that we believe everything in the financial statements here are materially correct. And that was the opinion that we were able to give this year on the audit. So I just wanted to point that out. Moving over to page 8. This shows the expenditures from year to year. The revenues on the previous page on page 7, those are pretty much in line with the prior year. There was a slight increase in taxes. I believe the county sales tax went up slightly, about $100,000. On the expenditure side, there was one change that was fairly significant that jumps out on the page, and that is with food service expenditures. That was mostly due to, in 2017, there were some upgrades to the lunchrooms that happened, so there were more expenditures in that year that did not occur in 2018. There just weren't as many capital expenditures. So that's the main cause of the decrease there. All right. If you will flip with me to page 11. Sorry, page 12. I went too far. This is where the financial statements actually start. The parts before this are management's discussion and analysis. Here on page 12, you see the assets, the liabilities, and the net position of the system as a whole. All of the funds, the child nutrition program, the Title I, the federal programs, the general fund, all of that's combined into one here and presented as one line item. So you see all the assets of the system, all the liabilities of the system, the entire net position of the system. There's one number I want to point out on this page, on page 12, the net OPEB liability. You will see that on the next page as well. That is your other pension benefits. That's the PHIP that you have. You offer that to your retirees. They're able to stay on the plan after they retire if they meet certain requirements. And so this is the first year that we have presented that number. There's a requirement that came out this past year called GASB 75 that required this number to be presented. And it basically says the total assets you have in the plan for your retirees to stay on PHIP, less the liabilities you expect to pay out for these retirees, you have to present that number. So there were more liabilities expected to be paid out than there were assets in the plan. And that's a statewide function. They tell us what Troy's specific portion of that is, and that's the amount you see here on the financials. That is $13.3 million, which is a large number. That is not a number that's going to be paid out tomorrow or even next year, but it is a number that's paid out slowly over the lifetime of the plan. You basically see that in the premiums that your employees pay each year is slightly higher than it would be if you didn't allow retirees to stay on it. So since you allow retirees to stay on the plan, the state does, the premium is slightly higher. So you are in effect subsidizing people to be able to stay on the plan. So it is paid out little by little over the years until eventually that liability will be zero in order for everybody to receive the benefits.
If I can interrupt on that. Basically what he's saying is Dr. Diggs, me, and the rest of the active employees are $800 a month that the school system pays goes to subsidize a portion of the retirees' program. So he has to recognize that amount on our financial statements. It's all pro rata share for all retirees, calculated by the state and communicated to Tom.
Correct. And like I said, it's not something that's paid out this year, next year. It'll be paid out over decades and decades and decades. And that's not something that's unexpected to see a liability there. A few years ago, they did the same thing with the pension plan for the state. And you'll see also on that same page, there's a large liability for the net pension plan as well. So not something that was unexpected, and like I said, not something that will be paid out today or tomorrow, but that is a big change from last year that you did not see. You'll see on the next page, on page 13, at the very bottom, there's something that says a prior period adjustment. That is with the implementation of that new accounting guidance that came out, where we have to recognize that liability. It had to be applied retroactively, so we had to go back and apply it as of the beginning of the year, so that's why you see that. All right, moving on to page 14. Feel free to stop me anytime if you have questions, or at the end I'll ask for questions, so you can wait till then as well. So on page 14, you will see this presents the balance sheet for each of the individual major funds. The major funds that was for the Troy City Board of Education this year was the general fund, the child nutrition fund, the debt service fund. And so you'll see each of those presented separately here. I do want to point out the state requires that there be at least 1 month in reserves for the general fund. This year you had 1.1 months. Last year you had 1.4. So it's down a little bit from last year. For the child nutrition, this year you have 2.8 months, and last year you had about 2.3. So that's actually up a little bit. Those are some metrics that the state looks at. The state requires us to state whether or not you met that requirement, and this year you did.
Is that an average over time, or was that a point in time?
As of the end of the year. So as of September 30th. Yes.
The state always counts as September 30th for their purposes.
And they calculate it a little bit differently, so they don't include accrued salaries expense or anything like that. So I backed that out whenever I calculated that as well. All right. So moving on to page 16. This is a statement of revenues and expenditures and changes in fund balance for each of those major funds I mentioned. I did just want to point out that the change in fund balance was a decrease for both the general fund and the child nutrition fund, which just means there were more expenditures than there were revenues. That's one of the reasons that the reserve that you have for each of those funds came down a little bit for the general fund. The child nutrition fund, I'm sorry, did go up slightly. That's why that one increased. So the general fund, the fund balance went down. Child nutrition fund, it went up slightly. And that's the reason for the change in the reserve. All right, so that is all that I'll go over with the financial statements. After this, you'll see the notes of the financial statements. Note 1 explains all of your significant accounting policies. I would urge you to read through that. And then after that, we go through each of the lines on the financial statements to give a little more detail. I want to turn to note 8. Notes 8 and note 9 on page 35. There's a schedule presented here. In note 9, you'll see that there were no proceeds or refundings of any of the bonds that the school system has for the year ended September 30th, 2018. So you did pay that down. Your bonds decreased by $340,000 approximately. There was an increase due to the line of credit that was taken out by $350,000. So overall, your debt as of September 30th, 2018 is almost identical to what the debt was at September 30th, 2017. All right, moving to page 46. And this is actually found on page 46 and page 52. I'll just talk about them both at the same time. So we talked about the pension liability and the post-employment benefit liability. Those are large numbers. They are also very sensitive. So they're calculated based on the expected rate of return that the state thinks they can get on the investments they have for both of those plans. And it's very sensitive. So if they get 1% higher rate of return than they expect, you'll see the liability goes way down. It's almost a $5 million decrease. If the percentage return they get is 1% lower, it's about a $5 million increase. So you'll see they are very sensitive. They will fluctuate a lot from year to year based on the actual returns that they're able to get. But the standards and the guidance is very specific on what rates they can use, so we feel confident that they used a reasonable rate in the financials for this year. All right. Moving on to page 69. This is the schedule of findings and question calls. Each year, if you have more than $750,000 in federal expenditures, we're required to perform what's called a single audit. That single audit is basically a compliance audit over your major programs that you have in the school system. Last year, we tested Title I and child nutrition. Sorry, I say last year. Auditors live in the past. So when I say last year, I'm talking about September 30th, 2017. At September 30th, 2018, We tested special ed, special education, and Title I. So those were the two major programs that we looked at. We did have one finding related to the Title I program. That would be found on page 70, and that was related to suspension and debarment. So the federal government requires that each vendor that you purchase over $25,000 from must be looked at to see if they are on a restricted list, a vendor list that you should not be using. We didn't find a control in place that specifically looked at that. It doesn't mean it didn't happen. There just wasn't anything formally documented. We didn't find any vendors that were restricted either or should not have been used. But we just didn't find a formal control in place. And we worked with Mickey. I do believe there'll be something in place for the next fiscal year. On the previous page, there's another finding related to the financial statements that I'll go over here. It's related to procurement. The board policy is that all the local schools and the central office, anytime an item is purchased, there's required to be a purchase order done beforehand that approves the price of the item, that approves the expenditure of the item by a department head. I work on myself 3 or 4 school board audits, and every single one of them have the same findings. So it's not something that's uncommon, because we do understand that if a football coach has a game that night and they need some tape, they might not be able to go and get a purchase order. But every time we find it, we do communicate it to you guys. So we did do a test, and we did find that out of 40 local school disbursements, we found 3 instances where the purchase order was dated after the purchase. We found 2 instances where the purchase order didn't match the invoice exactly. And then at the central office, there was only 1 to be found. All right, I believe that's all that I have. Do y'all have any questions or anything else? Nikki? All right, thank you.
Any other questions? There was one thing, I thought we mentioned about the management company that you had from the last year's report, I think, this time. As part of our internal control, as far as technology and our use of it, we need to have better controls as far as just the physical access and online access. Try to control our exposure to ransomware, hacking, things like that. One of the management suggestions they gave us was to have an external firm to what they call penetration testing, to test our staff and our system to see would anybody fall for ransomware or phishing, what they call phishing attacks. We are going to have this penetration testing performed. Mr. Anderson's working on that at this time, coming up with a firm to do it, a date to do it, and a cost to do that. And hopefully that will tighten up some of the controls that it sounds like. I know some of you may have seen some of the news articles about Houston County, and I think it was 3 other counties, or 3 other school systems that were hit by ransomware last week. So that's a concern to us at this time.
Just the world, I'm sorry, I was just gonna say, it's the world we live in. We saw this morning, I don't know if y'all saw the news, but Capital One had 100 million people affected. Equifax just paid $700 million out. So our firm gets the same penetration testing done. We've actually, I was in Atlanta at a big partner meeting, and we have quadrupled our security, cybersecurity insurance policy.
Yes, that was trying to
And it's just crazy. It's just the world we live in. I don't fully understand it. I couldn't do it, but people are just sitting out there looking for an excuse.
That's one of the things that really keeps me awake at night is the exposure to our payroll files, our personnel files, our vendor records, as far as just that data getting out if somebody's standing right there. So we're working, like I said, Mr. Anderson is trying to come up with a firm to perform this testing so we determine what is our exposure and what we do to mitigate it. Any other questions on that?
Board members, if there are no questions, I'd recommend the audit report be approved by the board.
Okay, board members, you've heard the recommendation by Dr. Hicks. Do I hear a motion to approve this recommendation?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Next item on the agenda is to approve a lawn maintenance bid. And I'll hand that over to Dr. Hicks to walk us through that item.
Okay, board members, before you have the bids that we got for lawn maintenance for Troy City School System. Again, through the process, we had, went through the whole legal process. At the time, the lowest bidder was Trussell Lawn out of Troy, Alabama, with a total cost of $85,734, which was the lowest bid. So with that being said, board members, if there are no questions, I would recommend the lawn care bid be approved by the board.
Board members, you hear the recommendation from Dr. Hicks. Do I hear a motion to approve this recommendation?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion?
Is this a new company for us?
Yes, ma'am.
So long as new.
Yes, ma'am.
Please, we know anything about their work.
Well, I mean, again, they had to have certain requirements to give us references, and they have to meet certain criteria to even put in a bid.
Certain like commercial
Yeah.
grade lawn equipment.
And they met all the minimum requirements.
There's a work crew available and ready to actually perform the project.
How does this price compare to our previous contract?
It was up by about 6,000, I think it was.
6 or 7.
7,000. And we figured it would probably be that way, but now we did add one more, we added the hills to it, and the hills were separate, and so the hills by itself were, the William Cut Hills.
And I think part of the problem we got into with the previous vendor who was performing, we couldn't keep a adequate work crew to perform the work. He was working days and nights, trying to keep it up, but at the end, he simply couldn't stay up with the work required.
And the wonderful thing about this is if our person that is providing the service, if they cannot keep up with the work, then we can automatically go into another bill at that time.
And so it's an annual contract agreement.
So want to review based upon the maintenance supervisor's evaluation, and we can review it out for 5 years. The state bid law allows up to 5 years.
Any other questions? Hearing none, we have an opportunity to approve this item. Do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second? Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is the class ranking and grade point average. So we'll hand that over to Dr. Hicks.
Okay, board members, this right here is just an introduction of a policy. It has to sit for 30 days. But this right here is actually a practice that we're already doing in Troy City Schools, but to make sure that when we submit it for the NCAA and others, it has to be in writing and in board policy. So again, this right here is one that we've looked at several other systems as well that do it just like, similar to this. But again, this is just weighting the courses for honors courses and for AP courses and equivalent, such as dual enrollment, and then the regular courses that are classified under general. So there's no action that has to be done tonight. It's for your review. If there's any questions, feel free. And we've submitted to the attorneys to look at it, or I say the school board attorneys to the School Board Association. But again, right now it has to sit here for 30 days and for review. And so if there's questions, feel free to ask. But I won't put it in front of y'all today. But this right here would actually be submitted to the NCAA. And then from there, they would be able to, any student athlete, they would follow our grading policy or our grade point average policy. that is approved by LEAs, but if they don't have one for board policy, then they will automatically go to the 4.0 scale, which it doesn't matter if we recognize it in the school system. If they don't recognize it, then it's still a 4.0. So just FYI on that. But if there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer any of those questions for you.
Board members, any questions at this time? Seeing none, we'll move on to item 8 on our agenda, which is delegations.
Yes, sir.
Next item is item 9, board member comments, and we'll start down at the end with Ms. Ross.
Thank you. Nikki, I know you included the salary matrix in the packet for about 20 years. Does that get voted on, or is that just automatic?
No, it should have been voted on. Should have been on the agenda too.
At this point, well, I guess, I didn't know that. We can go back and amend the agenda at this point? We can. So,
I did upload it to the record. I didn't see the agenda before the
so is,
It should be a part of it.
so can I make a motion that we amend the agenda to add the salary matrix to tonight's agenda?
Please.
I will do that. I'll make that motion.
Second, I apologize, I followed mine.
And board members, you hear the motion from Ms. Ross Kitchens. Do I hear a second? Okay. Any discussion on that item? Okay. All those in favor of amending the agenda to add the salary matrix item to the agenda for tonight's meeting, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Hearing none, we've added that item to the agenda, so can we now...
At this time, I'll turn over to Ms. Barton.
You should.
Board members, what you have is a copy of our salary schedules based on the state's salary matrix. Each year, the state calculates what the salary matrix is. It will be for certified teachers. We use that salary matrix to base all of our certified applicants' salary schedules off of. We also update our support staff's salary schedule off of that. As you see in the attachment, it includes not just teachers, but principals, assistant principals, superintendent, finance office, everybody that we have active under the current payroll system. Because of this, we included this based on the state law for the budget this time. It was Act number 2019-399. It includes 4% raise for the coming year. That's effective October 1st. We have to include that for everybody, not just teachers, but also support staff. In accordance with the same law, the 4% raise was determined not to apply to lump sum supplements, payments for national board certification, nor for the federal portion of the ROTC salary. The third item, certified faculty are placed on the appropriate salary schedule according to degree earned and completed years of public education service. The personnel you hire tonight, the teachers, we will look at their degree, we will look at their years of experience confirmed from other school systems. Ms. Mitchell receives that, she coordinates that with us. We look down the salary matrix. If they have a master's with 15 years, we look to that step. That's where we place them on the pay scale. If they get a new degree, if they go from a bachelor's to a master's, then the next payroll cycle after the state superintendent recognizes it, we increase their salary. That may mean we prorate their salary if it's in the middle of the year. Or in the case of getting your degree over the summer, then we would make it effective the first new payroll cycle, which is going this September. Two last things on myself. One of those was the advanced degree, I went over that. The last one deals with pay increase, 4% raise. It says the 4% pay increase provisions of this act shall not apply to superintendents of education without majority recorded vote of the governing body. The current contract previously approved by the majority vote of this board authorizes the superintendent to receive any increase on the annual base salary on the same basis that is received by full-time 12-month employees of the district. So anybody else that 12 months deal that gets a 4% raise, it also goes to the superintendent. It's just, that's the way we've set it up. The attached schedule reflects the 4% raise, and with your approval of these pay scales, it will take effect at the same time. Are there any questions?
Now, the support personnel, those are local matrices, like the, help me understand that just a little bit. I mean, I know I've been doing this a long time, but.
They're locally developed, like for the custodian or C&P staff. We develop those pay scales based on surrounding schools, similar school systems that are similar in size. They were developed years ago. Most of them, we have not made any adjustments to them except for the state mandated pay raises. Last year, I think we got a 2.5%. We're 4% this time. Then all of those scales are raised up.
But the certified staff, that comes directly from the state.
Straight from the state.
And we pay, we
Based
don't
on
like,
that
I know
state.
we constantly hear about some of the more affluent systems, the 1 or 2 that are in Alabama, who do pay above the matrix, but the majority of the schools pay what the matrix says.
Correct. We are authorized to pay above the matrix if the board elects to do so. I would not recommend that, but some systems do that. But that matrix is the base. We cannot go below it. Any question on those? That matrix is a part of the foundation program. They develop that. That's what they fund us on. When they say a bachelor's degree with 10 years gets this, that's what they send us in the foundation program. Any questions?
Board members, you hear the recommended salary matrix for the upcoming fiscal year. Do I hear a motion to approve this item?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All those in favor, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay. Now we're going to return to our original agenda and go back to board member comments. And turn it back over to Ms. Roxy.
Thank you. I really don't have anything. I hope y'all had a good summer, and I hope those of you who have been working this summer have gotten a lot done. But just we'll be thinking about you as the next couple of weeks as you get ready to start school.
Thank you. And Ms. Eva Green.
Okay, I concur with what Roxy said, that I hope you all have a great summer, and looking forward to coming back next 2 weeks, the 8th, I think, because before then. But I'm here to help you guys like I did. Was it last year? I really enjoyed helping the elementary kids come into school and see those parents. And this year I'd like to help the 8th graders who will be coming over and trying to, get a little scare out of them. If it's okay with you guys, I have to be outside when you're dropped off. It's okay. Just greedy. Unless you guys can get college. Come right here.
Ms. Green and Mr. Cox.
I'd just like to offer my condolences to the students at Goshen High School and then one student from Crenshaw Christian Academy and the Wheeler family. Read last night. As you all know, it can affect any of us. So my heart goes out to those families and teachers and principals. Had a good summer and look forward to another school year.
Thank you. And I would just add that I too am excited about the start of school and appreciate the work of our administrators throughout the summer and the work of our teachers over the last several weeks as they've gotten ready for the upcoming school year. Many have started early in that process and have been engaged very fully putting in some sweat equity into their classrooms, which we know makes a difference, it sets climate for student success. Continuing to be excited by the new partnerships and expanded opportunities and grants that our school system is securing, both through the efforts of our teachers and administrators as well as our parents. And just would like to recognize them for their engagement, specifically some parents for their engagement in the continuous improvement of our schools, and we need more to join the forces, and would certainly welcome them in that process. And then would like to recognize in a very broad way our state leaders for the 4% raise for our teachers and staff. It's much needed, it's well deserved, and we need more of it. And but certainly 4% helps after it is long overdue after some lean years. So again, I'm here, the board's here, and we want to make ourselves available to you all as teachers and administrators, so please let us know how we can help you over the coming weeks and months and the upcoming academic year. So with that, I'll turn it over to the superintendent, Dr. Hicks, for his report.
Again, thank everybody for coming here today. To the administrators that are here today, I mean, y'all worked all summer long, and it all starts tomorrow. To the custodians and to the support staff that's been working those countless hours there to get the schools ready, and the maintenance workers, to Ronnie, and I know you've been shortchanged this year a little bit with personnel and stuff, or this summer, but you've been able to get everything going, and I can't thank you for that. Ms. Curry, getting those lunchrooms ready for our kids. I know we still have about 2 weeks to go, but again, everybody will be going wide open. But again, thank the board for their constant their leadership and their support through this time. And Ms. Bean, it's always great to see your smiling face here in front of her. And again, we look forward to a great school year, and feel free to come out tomorrow to our Institute Day and just ready to go ahead and begin. So again, thank you all for coming.
And with that, I think that concludes our meeting for tonight, and I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thanks, do I hear a second? Okay. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Okay, our meeting is officially adjourned. Thank you all.